Hello and welcome to this week's Gaming the Podcast. I am John Robertson, joined by Stace Harman, and this week we are talking about Back 4 Blood, which has just come out today, although it has been on early access for 4 days, which is what we've been playing. I'm sure you know what it is, otherwise you wouldn't be listening to this episode, I would hazard a guess. But in a nutshell, it's a spiritual successor to Left 4 Dead, which is a game about 4 co-op buddies going around and shooting zombies, trying to survive and get to the exit, basically. It's been a while since Left 4 Dead 2 came out, and obviously a bit longer since Left 4 Dead 1 came out. What are your memories of Left 4 Dead? Did you play much of it? Have you carried on playing it?
I did play a lot. I did play a lot of Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2. Very fond memories of both of those. Played those on PC. Very close, if not, I think, like day and date perhaps to when they came out. And that went on for a few years. It was a game and still is a game, I know, for a lot of people.
It was a game.
It was a game, and it still is a game. That people played for years, and it still is a game that people play for years and continue to play. But yeah, I stopped playing it probably, I don't know, 6-7 years ago. Was probably the last time that I played Left 4 Dead. So my memories of it are very fond, and I thought it was amazing and is amazing as a game. But yeah, mine kind of, I don't have any, I couldn't identify specific, the flow of, that you go from this level to this level to this level. I don't remember that stuff. I just remember stuff that happens, set pieces and things. But yeah, I played it a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. I played them both when they first came out. And I played Left 4 Dead 2 recently, earlier this year. And I thought, like you, that I had forgotten everything, and I kind of had consciously. I had forgotten it. I wouldn't be able to draw or write out the sort of level map and describe you go from here to here to here to here in the different scenes. But when I played Left 4 Dead 2 earlier this year, it was amazing how much you could remember. It wasn't like
a muscle memory thing.
Yeah, and it wasn't like now I know that this thing's coming. Although there were a couple of moments like that, it was more like I remember that bit now goes into that bit. Yeah. So once it's in front of your face, it was quite obvious, or not obvious, but memorable, I suppose, more accurately. That how different things flowed into each other.
Yeah. And so we've both played Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2. We both played it extensively. You've played it more recently than I have. I know that there is a big contingent of people that still continue to play Left 4 Dead. Can
I just ask one thing? Actually?
Go for it.
How did you play it? Left 4 Dead 2. You play it solo? Did you play it with friends? Did you play it with randoms online?
How did I play it? I played it with 2 other people for the most part, but I think towards the end it was a game that I continued to go back to and play solo with bots. So I don't know, it was probably 50-50, or maybe I played a little bit more solo than I did multiplayer, but it was, for the most part it was a 3-person team. Very rarely 4 people. Very rare. If it was a 4th person, then it was a random person we tended to have. But yeah,
and always the same squad. So you got into a flow of sort of understanding each other's approach and what you wanted.
And that was, and we've got that kind of that satisfaction of seeing that evolve, or retrospectively realizing that it had evolved. But yeah, my last probably couple of, even the last year or so that I played it, it was just the kind of a game that I put on and just had a half-hour kind of run through. Solo is sort of the back end of my Left 4 Dead career. But yeah, it's a game that it's a game that I remember both kind of fondly for both its multiplayer and its solo play.
Because I remember, and it's been the same with Back 4 Blood as well. Playing solo was never something that really I don't know if obviously I love the games and I love. Well, spoiler, I like Back 4 Blood a lot. But I don't know if I like it enough to play without real people, even if they're randoms. Just because I don't know, it's almost like a sense of losing something more than rather than the game mechanics being just enough in and of themselves. So that sense of loss, even though the game mechanics are good, would still be hanging over me all the time, playing solo.
Yeah, and this, I mean, Back for Blood perhaps complicates that further because of the way its progression system works. And if you choose to play solo, well, I suppose in as much as the progression system currently doesn't work by design. But that's, yeah, I mean, we'll get to that as well. But so that's the fact that a lot of people still play Left 4 Dead. We have very fond memories of Left 4 Dead. I mean, I believe that everybody that has memories of Left 4 Dead, they are fond memories. But I don't know, it's not a very common thing, I don't think, for people to say, yeah, I played Left 4 Dead, I thought it was rubbish, or I really didn't enjoy it. Or I thought it was badly designed.
Or you can
not enjoy it, but
I still play Left 4 Dead, and I think it's rubbish.
Yeah, that would be even odder. So, and I feel that puts Back for Blood, and by extension Turtle Rock, who made Back for Blood, they also made Evolve, and they also made a lot of the team from that worked on Back for Blood and that now work at Turtle Rock Studios were the people that originally made Left 4 Dead. And so there's a very direct kind of comparison and relevance here, because it's more than just, these group of random people have made a game that is in the Left 4 Dead template and has, is a spiritual successor. Part of it being a spiritual successor is because, or I believe at least, is because a lot of the people that worked on it on Left 4 Dead have also worked on Back for Blood. So there's a definite through line of kind of DNA. Evolve was kind of the odd one out there. It was, not anywhere near as many people played Evolve, and it kind of it was quite a high profile, well, disaster is perhaps too strong a word, but it certainly didn't go well. Yeah. Like the framework around it, the publishing side of it, there was a lot of, issues with DLC and microtransactions. So Evolve is the odd sheep out of that family.
I quite liked Evolve.
I liked the idea of it.
I respected it. It was an interesting sort of spin on the Left 4 Dead idea, in that there's 4 people against an overwhelming force. It's just that this overwhelming force was another real person playing a monster. But yeah, I don't know. It quite quickly got pretty derivative. Evolve. You were just as when you were tracking, in the same way all the time. And when you're a certain monster, you learned tricks that could just overcome the trackers as soon as they made any kind of mistake. Like, that's it, now I've got you.
I think it's a template that I know it exists elsewhere, and I know that John, you've played a lot of like Friday the 13th, which is a similar idea. It's not the same thing, of course, but it's like you're not really fighting the monsters in that, are you? You're kind of basically just trying to escape them and avoid them. But I certainly don't think Evolve was like proof that concept can't work at all. I think it needed more time, more support, perhaps more kind of considered design up front. But it's the kind of thing that I think could be used as a stepping stone to go on to something else. I think 4v1 in that format could absolutely work.
Well,
it would need to work in another way.
Yeah, well, Dead by Daylight is that, and it's supremely popular, way more popular than Friday the 13th ever was. But it's not as good. It's not as good as Friday the 13th or as Evolve, really. It's you literally just do the same thing every single time in Dead by Daylight. Anyway,
right. Well, let's bring.
That's my personal bias that Friday the 13th is way better than Dead by Daylight. So now, why is Dead by Daylight the popular one?
Yes, a chip on your shoulder, jealous of the success. So Turtle Rock Studios, they made Evolve, they made Back for Blood. A lot of the team made the original Left 4 Dead, and I feel that the fact that Left 4 Dead and its sequel are still being played to this day by people a decade after they came out. Puts Back for Blood in quite a peculiar position, and quite an unusual position, I think, because the thing that it's being compared to by almost, anybody, any review, anybody that played Left 4 Dead, the comparison is there to be made. The thing that it's being compared to is still around. It's not like, I remember this game from 10 years ago that I loved, and you have these kind of fuzzy memories of it. People, were playing Left 4 Dead this morning and are now playing Back for Blood. It's that kind of, it's that recent for people. And that's an odd situation for Back for Blood to be in, I think, because I don't know that there's a lot of things where it's this X is a spiritual successor to Y, but X is still, still very popular and is still around and being engaged with on a frequent basis. So Back for Blood, I don't know that that's to its benefit really, but I guess it does allow you to look at the very distinct differences as well for things like the progression system. And it's interesting to see that kind of point in time design of 10 years ago for Left 4 Dead, and then far more recently for Back 4 Blood, and how things like progression systems and XP and this kind of notion of persistent progress has become far more popular, particularly in shooters, for sure.
Yeah, I think what the reality that Left 4 Dead is still being played is going to cause, and likely has caused already just by seeing some of the response online, is possible. Well, I don't know how much it will go into the future when people play Back 4 Blood more, but there seems to be quite a polarization of response. And some of the people that are being negative about it are ones that still play Left 4 Dead, but within their own community, they're determining it as, is Back 4 Blood worth me giving up Left 4 Dead for? Which is not what the vast majority of people are going to be determining it as. So that opinion within their community is perfectly valid. It's just within a wider sense of gaming as mainstream entertainment, that's a niche perspective. It's just one that's being shouted very loudly by a very dedicated Left 4 Dead community. Yeah.
And I hope that it is able to emerge from that shadow and just stand alone as its own thing and be allowed to stand alone. Because I don't, philosophically, I don't like the notion of should X exist if it isn't just out and out better than Y. I do understand that from that exact point of view that you're talking about, that it's, well, if we put it into a maths equation and I've got this much time and I've got these two options and A is better than B, then I'm going to play A rather than B. And that's fine. I understand that completely. But I would also like, I think, Back 4 Blood to be considered in its own right. And I mean, I've been really enjoying it as well. You mentioned, spoiler wise, that you've been enjoying it, and so have I. And it's a game that has got a lot to give, I think. There's definitely some stuff that needs to be ironed out, but that's one of the wonderful kind of signs of progress is that we can have live patching and we can have all of those good things that never cause any problems ever as the game moves forward. So we can have balance tweaks and all of that. And unlike some games that need that just to be a functioning game, Back 4 Blood is a fully featured functioning game that works on day one. Like, I think that shouldn't be news. You shouldn't have to say that, but there have been some games. Street Fighter, I think, is one recent-ish example where something was launched and it's like, now we need to patch in all of the stuff to actually make it a game. And
yeah, well, have you ever heard of a game called Cyberpunk?
No, tell me more.
I think that game might have had a couple of patch problems that it needed to. Well, not even patch problems, there's just entire chunks missing.
Just a small indie developer that was from.
I don't know who made it, but yeah, some developer.
Yeah. So Back 4 Blood is fully featured, but it will benefit from what will hopefully be, to my mind at least, millions of people playing it and Turtle Rock getting all of that data and being able to make those decisions based on this huge playtest that is going on live, effectively.
Yeah, on the patching and balancing, which is one of the things that people have have said that is potentially not up to scratch. I mean, I think I just don't get that at all, because I think the balancing is like one of the best things about the game. Like, and the AI director system that they've got, which Left 4 Dead also had, that basically reacts to how well you're doing and throws different things at you, how badly you're doing.
The kind of thing that if you're standing around for too long discussing things, it will just chuck a horde at you to move things along. Right?
Yeah,
that's sort of the basic summing up of the AI director.
Or even just like 2 or 3 zombies behind you, just so that if you're behind your team or whatever, just to hurry you on a bit, or also like if you're just trying to stand at the back and sniping all the time, well, there's always going to be the constant niggle and nagging that like you're not safe here just because you've got a sniper rifle and you're a long way from the mess in front of you. But particularly playing on veteran, It was like one of when I played on Veteran, it was like one of the most balanced experiences I've had for a long time in a game as complicated to balance like this one, where you've got 4 different people, 4 different real people doing their own things, doing random stuff that the game that the developers wouldn't necessarily have predicted would happen in that combination. And they've all got their different cards, they've got their different weapons, they've got different amounts of health, different levels of experience and like skill at the game. And on Veteran, like it always felt like we were on the verge of death. Like we were always about to die. We were always at like 50% trauma, which is a system in the game where you lose your health permanently, well, semi-permanently. You have to interact with special things to get it back. And we were always on the edge. Like I never felt safe. We were always down to our last bandages. We were swapping bandages between each other. We were making sure that the person who was playing the healer was always the one healing every single time because we had so little healing items that we needed to make them most efficient use of them. And we were constantly on the edge all the time.
Yeah, that's a really key thing. So that's one of the things. Yeah, the balancing, I think, is a very difficult thing to do. When, like, as you say, so there's 4 people playing. Hopefully you've got a group of 4 people playing. But the game doesn't know straight out the gate who those 4 people are. It doesn't know if those 4 people are brand new. It doesn't know if one of them is acting as kind of a guide to the other 3 and just giving you a heads up and getting you up to speed. So the algorithm that is running all of that, or multiple algorithms, has to be incredibly adaptable and it's not going to always work. But I think so far it looks like it works for the most part. And that thing you just mentioned about the healer, I think is one of my favourite bits, that you can pick a role. And that is what you get good at. That is what you dedicate yourself to. And as somebody, as you well know, who is not particularly amazing at, certainly not competitive shooters, that's for sure. But just honestly, shooters with a pad is challenging for me. If it's not with a mouse and keyboard, I don't have a great deal of confidence in what is going on. I get the job done, but I don't feel like I am mastering a thing. I feel like I'm sort of grappling against it slightly. And maybe that's, I need to work on my control setup or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
and I suppose it should actually mention that we've been playing it on PS5, although I will also be playing it on PC because it's out on Game Pass, which I play on PC. So I will be playing it on mouse and keyboards when I'm playing with people who use Xboxes. The balancing is a key thing, but that notion of the progression system of building a deck of cards that are basically like buffs and perks and abilities either for yourself or for your team, and you play those cards in between each, when you get to the safe houses, in between each like mini chapter within an act. And that moment-to-moment decision-making, and that idea that if I am being the healer, which is what I've kind of designated myself as, because that's how I can be, like my usefulness in a 4-person shooter is probably to make sure that the other 3 people, who are probably better shooters than I am, are staying on their feet. Yeah, the way that you can provide maximum utility is to...
it's just to run around and be mum. I mean, literally, or mom, is to run around and do that. But in order to do that, particularly in Back 4 Blood, I'm investing in a deck that makes me better at doing that. So as you said about the efficiency side, I'm bringing cards that make team healing more efficient. I'm bringing cards that make me a more efficient healer. Or if I heal myself or somebody else, they get like a buff to their healing. So yes, then and as time goes on, I think we'll see more of this. There needs to be that recognition, and there will hopefully become that recognition of that person has chosen to be this character, therefore they're playing that role. So me picking up, if I'm not that character, me, trying to pick up all of the bandages or all of the first aid kits to heal myself is not going to be better for me in the long run, and it's certainly not going to be better for the team. And that's that. I really like that level of investment of being able to like be a thing and say, I'm not just an avatar and, I've got a health kit, so I'll heal you. It's like, just make sure that I'm stocked up with health kits, and I'll make sure that you stay on your feet. It's that two-way exchange, and it's an in the moment thing, and it as well as a longer term planning thing. And that's like, I like that. It feels like, I don't know, crunchy. Like it feels like something to get like your teeth into. I like the sort of the way that's set up.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things as well. So I play a very different role to that. I prefer to play a very different role than that. So I pick Holly, who's like stamina-based character, and most of my cards are around stamina. Although even within stamina, you can have very different deck builds. Like I use stamina where it's just pure stamina. Like you've got a lot of stamina, you can sprint a long way and you use less stamina for each second of sprinting. Or is it more stamina about like wielding melee weapons without getting tired, or swapping between weapons a lot, or having reloading faster and that sort of stuff. So even within there, you can still tweak what kind of stamina player you want to be. But I like to be the scout, I guess, like the forward scout. So I have loads of stamina, have a shotgun, baseball bat or machete or whatever melee weapon I can find that's best at the time, and then take point, scout a bit, see what's happening. I always have the toolkit on me, so that if I come across like a forward, like sort of safe area, and they've got like a secret, like a locked door where there's like you need to unlock it with the toolkit. There's some special stuff in there, there's healing stations and whatever, and I can just like point out these things before coming back, not before coming back, but then if you're playing on hard difficulty, certainly, then we can plan, okay, what we're doing. But you still have to play carefully. Like being stamina based isn't just run around, do loads of stuff. Like you still don't want to trigger the horde before everyone's ready. Yeah. And yeah, the shotgun. Well, I love using the shotgun for that, because the shotguns in Back 4 Blood are like really, really heavy feeling. Like when you shoot them and you see a zombie get obliterated by it, it's like, yes, like that felt like I really shot a shotgun.
It's very instant. Yeah.
So
I'm more the short controlled bursts of an assault rifle. You know, I'm that guy. That like just fire off three shots, and that's it. Gives me a good margin for error of I miss those 3 shots, whereas a shotgun doesn't give me much margin for error. I shoot and then I
shoot and miss,
I'm dead.
Run away,
shoot and miss, and then I'm
turn
dead.
your back on them and get torn up.
I shot. I mean, that should be enough. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, the deck building and the progression. There are some like the cosmetic unlocks. There's a baseball bat skin, the yellow one. I think it's the only baseball bat skin. I think there's only like 1 or 2 skins for most weapons, which is really, really disappointing, to be honest. Like the cosmetic stuff. It's just really compared to other games.
For some of the guns, there's 3. I've had like 1 of 3 or 0 of 3 or whatever.
Yeah. So for some, but like, you know, with games like this where like they're supposed to be super replayable, you're earning supply points, you're doing it in co-op. Like, you know, other similar games, they'll have like 50 skins, like from like day one.
Well, I dare say this will ramp up from this initial offering. I mean, maybe there is a desire to not saturate it, because at the moment at least, you get some of those cosmetic skins through unlocking the supply chain pathways, right? So you go out into the world, you earn some supply points, you come back, you spend them on these different, like, effectively, what are they? They're like skill trees, aren't they? Kind of, they're like you're unlocking different cards. And they are linear pathways. You can swap between different ones or do multiples at the same time. But once you've started down that path, to get to the other end of that path, you have to go through, you know, to get from A to Z, you have to go through all the other letters of the alphabet. And sometimes some of those are those customizable unlock things. And I have had a thing where it's like, I've got just enough supply points, and what I really want is that next card for that super team healing buff, but I have to go through this cosmetic one first, and it's like, that's like, I don't want to spend my thing on that. I want to, you know, so maybe if they separate out the customization options, perhaps there'll be a bit more options to spend. Maybe even real money, I dare say.
Yeah, the skins are also unlocked by performing tasks, though, or like accomplishments, because I think I got the baseball bat one. This might be wrong, but I think I got 500 melee kills with Holly, and I think that's what I unlocked. Where that came from. I think that's how that one got unlocked. So yeah, there's 2 ways of some of them are assigned to accomplishments, some of them are you have to go through the cards. But I mean, you want to like dig into that experience. Then you want to be able to have lots of stuff to like fully make your character. Well, it's not less the character and more the weapons, because that's the bit I see.
Because that's all you see.
Although it would be nice, like in the start screen, and when other people see your character all the time, to like I don't know, deck your character out a bit more than you're able to now in, like genuinely like a huge, right? Because the characters, even though they're not like outright cartoony, they are kind of cartoony and they're super stereotypy. So there's loads of space within those stereotypes and within those, well, not stereotypes, like archetypes, to have like loads of crazy stuff. Like Holly, she wears like a baseball cap and a school bag. Like there's loads of stuff you could do. With that basic sort of character model. And I also have just like loads of heads, like 50 heads for her or 20 heads for her. Like why not? Like Fortnite does that, Apex does that. So
so that's if there's a balance of there being a different way to unlock it. And yes, if it is that the more you play with a certain character, the deeper down that track you get, then that makes perfect sense. Clearly you enjoy playing as that character, so a satisfactory reward and a worthwhile reward that you might be chasing is more options for personalizing that character or the weapons that they're carrying or whatever. I guess that like their bark, what they say when they heal people or whatever, their barks and their different voices, different, as you say, heads, all the rest of it.
Yeah, and while I think it probably is wise to have a main, and like if you're playing with the same people all the time, you should probably just main a character all the time. And really get that synergy up in your group. I do think, though, I won't just play as Holly forever. Like, I do want to branch out and do other skill tree, like, more like luck-based ones, because one of the cards types you can get are like, there's a percentage chance of this happening if you do this, or a percentage chance of this happening when someone else does this thing, or whatever. And I think the game's deep enough that having an understanding of how other characters and how other decks can influence proceedings, having first-hand knowledge of that will help you play as Holly or as whoever else. So it will pay to know what other people in your team are going through in that exact moment and to have a direct level of experience to apply and draw from in order to understand that, rather than just relying on them telling you what's happening, because that's going to slow everything down. And certainly on the harder difficulties, you want to just be like, make a decision and go. You don't want to be standing there for 2 minutes waiting.
Having a chat.
So...
Yeah, and so it should also be mentioned that the cards that you unlock and that you then put into a deck of 15 cards, I believe it is, those are kind of, you use those throughout the run, and you use those often to either boost certain skills or sometimes very directly in response to the corruption cards that the AI director is playing, which are basically the variables. They're the things that if you do map X on a Tuesday, it might be all dark and stormy, and if you do it the next time you play it, it might be that it's brilliant sunshine, or it takes place at night and day, or there might be fog, or
every 5 minutes a horde, no matter what you're doing, just comes down on you, even if there's another horde on you already. I wonder if that's what like people are complaining about with the balancing, that they think it's unfair, but then surely that's on you just to pre-plan that and time it.
You get the timer, right? I mean, it tells you on the screen. In that particular instance, it tells you that, in 5 minutes, which again is just another, there's like all these points of engagement of, right, okay, yesterday when we played this map, we didn't have to think about this, but today, in 5 minutes, a horde is coming. So we need to be in a certain position, or we need to think about that. We just need to be able to defend where we are. I also don't know yet if things like, and I know this happened recently when we were playing, that we had that one, every 5 minutes a horde is triggered. I don't yet know how that reacts with things like startling birds or opening alarmed doors or setting off car alarms that also brings out a horde. Like, I don't know where the strategy is of like, perhaps because also there's those things you have to break, like nests, essentially, you have to destroy, and when you do that, it triggers a horde. I don't know if there's like a masking thing that, we've already got like the 5 minute horde coming in, so let's do this during that, because then there won't be another one. Or I don't know, does it double up?
I think it just cascades and just keeps doubling up. Yeah, I think from the anecdotal experience I've got, that seems to be what's happening. But yeah, you said about the nest, and I think that's another interesting thing as well, because even just within, say, Act 1, even though it's a game about running from A to B, essentially A to B, and don't die on the way. Still within that,
games.
There's loads of stuff to do. Like it's like, rescue these people, rescue these NPCs, barricade this, survive this for 5 minutes, turn these things on, like take these cases to the end of the level and you can't shoot or can't attack or anything when you've got these cases, like, search for this thing, run away from this thing. But there's a lot of different points of sort of different forms of tension that are like forced upon you. It's not just here's a horde, here's a horde, here's a horde, here's a horde. Like that's always in the background and that can always happen. But that's just like this sort of this lurking shadow that's an extra point of tension above these other like diverse things that are already creating tension for the group.
Yeah. And I think the flavor helps with that, because it's fair to say that in some of those instances, you can boil that down to press this button and then wait or survive for X amount of time and then escape. But that, I think, is kind of well, of course it's reductive by its nature, but that is, I think it's unfair really, because the flavor that's layered on top of some of that stuff. So the bar fight, as it is one of my favorite bits so far. You go into a bar and narratively you have to set the jukebox off in order to create a diversion for something else to happen elsewhere. And the Ridden come in and they break the jukebox because they're, as we all know from films and games, zombies are attracted to loud noises. And so they break the thing, you have to repair it to keep it going, etc. Mechanically, that's similar to another point in time where you press a button and something happens and you just have to survive for a certain amount of time. And if it breaks down, you have to fix it. But the flavour that's layered upon that is very, like, I got real, like, Shaun of the Dead vibes. There's licensed music that plays. And I'm not going to spoil it for anybody that hasn't played that bit yet. But there's a few different tracks. I don't know how many exactly, but I've heard 2 different tracks, both of which perfectly fit the situation. And it just, like, it made me smile. And and it's also absolute carnage. There's multiple entry points and exit points in that bar. And it's like, you have to be on it. But it felt great. Like it was just a fun thing to do.
And I think even though you're right, and at the core, the foundation of turn this on and survive this outbreak, this onslaught of zombies is the same as, I assume you're talking about the diner bit with the generator at the top of the hill.
Yeah.
But those 2 bits sort of emotionally, like the feeling of those 2 bits, even though they're mechanically similar, are completely different because the environment within it and create different funnels and different like the zombies gang up on you in the diner because it's so claustrophobic and so everything's so tight and there's things to like get caught up on and stuff. And normally you do when you say, "Oh, I got caught up on a scenery," it's like, "Oh, well, that's really bad." But I don't mean that. I just mean that there's more narrow areas and there's tables and stuff everywhere, so you can easily get like blindsided by zombies that are coming around the corridor or coming across the table or whatever that you didn't see. But that doesn't happen at the diner because it's an open space. So it's so that's about how well can you put your defenses out on this open space and stop the zombies or slow them down and give you enough time to kill them before they hurt you. Whereas a diner it's this really tightly confined space.
The bar is just this like this madcap 5 minutes of carnage and it's also very well lit. It's not like I guess it's the juxtaposition somewhat. You've been creeping around the streets, or the library, for example, is another good. There's just a lot of these, I think, very emotionally investing or emotive situations and set pieces where it's like, that's cool, and I enjoyed that, and that was and the library, you board up the windows before the horde comes, and I think you escape soon after you've done that. You have to board up the windows whilst the horde is coming. So there's enough to keep me invested and to like give little moments of engagement and of like just enjoyment, I suppose. It's not just moving from one place to another and getting through the level. I've started in this safe house, I end in this safe house. I've done this route through a dark city. There are these kind of flashpoints of it just being kind of just out and out fun.
Like I can see it's definitely going to be a game that I play for a long time. I don't know if I'm going to be playing it like daily, like after say a month from now, but And I would really only want to play with friends as much as possible, like maybe one random or two randoms, like you said, but certainly at least one other person. But it's just got all the hallmarks of just one of those, just a game that's in like your constant rotation of games, and like your gaming group will just like play, right, on any random day, like what are we going to play? Oh, I don't know, Back for Blood. Like it's always going to be an option.
Yeah, let's start with a bit of Back for Blood, and then we'll move on to something else. And that and this will be obvious to a lot of people that play games with others regularly. But that notion of playing with even just one other person, and depending on lots of people don't like to talk online. They don't like kind of having this experience of there's going to be a random element, as in literally just a random player in my party. It's set up such that you can have the party chat within the game be open to everybody, or you can make it just private to your friends group, or you can make it invite only, or whatever. So in terms of the like who you're speaking to, who you're communicating to with, you can kind of set the levels on that if you want to. So if that's a particular concern of yours, you have control over that. But that notion of having two people in a party at least, and it made me, so when we played recently, it made me more invested. It wasn't like, I saw a melee weapon or a baseball bat, whatever, and was like, well, I'm not using that, so I'm going to give it no further thought. I was then highlighting that to you and saying, oh, there's a melee weapon here, and it gives you. I think we talked a bit about this with like Diablo 2, and you were talking about how you're running two different characters and you collect stuff across one, and it means you're thinking about something else and someone else whilst you're doing your own thing. And that has its own little kind of reward attached to it. It's like, I'm not just here for myself. I'm also here, which obviously you don't do with bots. That doesn't happen, goes without saying. It doesn't happen with bots or even random people sometimes. Yeah,
it does make everything feel bigger, because like, even just a simple act of pinging that baseball bat or saying that there's a baseball bat here, that it makes it seem like it's bigger than you. Like it's not just you here.
Yeah.
There's a grander picture here that I am one piece of.
Rather than it revolving around me.
Yeah, and it's the strength of the picture that's important. It's not the strength of just me alone. So definitely agree. Yeah, I mean, I definitely prefer playing it with actual people, and certainly people. I think also when you get to the harder difficulties, like if you're playing with randoms who are not talking, I mean, good luck.
Yeah. Well, I can see. We'll see. I think we'll perhaps aim to wrap up now, but I can see us doing another episode further down the track of kind of similar to the experience with Hades, of like, here it is after this much time, and then after this much time it's like, oh, now I know so much more, I've learned so much more, these are the things that have stuck with me, these are the things that have kind of fallen away, or and I can see us potentially revisiting this, because I think, like you, it's a game that I'm going to play for a long time. So I think it's safe to say so far, of the 3 or 4 days that we've played, we're both enjoying Back for Blood very much.
Thumbs up so far.
Yeah.
So it is time to wrap up. There is just one more thing which is unrelated to Back for Blood. So our latest book, which has been on pre-order for quite a while, has now been fully released and is available to buy now. People have their own copies, and that's 20 Double Fine Years, which is our big book of everything Double Fine, their entire 20-year history, celebrated and explored and discussed throughout 20 Double Fine Years. So that's available now from doublefinebook.com if you are interested in the world's best video game books. I'm sure every single review of the book.
And I would just highlight as well that the Legend Edition, which is our collector's edition of this particular book, is only available in this first edition print run, and it is the most popular one by a ratio of about at least 2-to-1 towards 3-to-1. So if you are somebody who likes to collect things and have them kept for posterity, or even just to eBay potentially, we'd rather you read it, but it's up to you.
Please read it first before eBaying
read it first. But let us know what you think.
Probably try to keep the pages nice and neat, because your eBay value will go down.
It's all right. No, I'd do this. Buy two copies.
Buy two.
unwrap one, read that, keep the other one pristine. Yeah, anyway, but that's a first edition print run only edition, so if you are interested, go and have a look at doublefinebook.com and consider picking up your copy and joining the conversation.
Yeah, and buy 2 copies of the Legend Edition. And then buy a third for eBay. Yeah, buy 6. Actually, don't buy 6, because... Well, no, buy 6. What am I talking about? Okay, so yes, that's it. We will be back again next week. Thank you for listening. Gaming the Podcast is released every Tuesday, so make sure you subscribe to never miss an episode. Otherwise, we'll see you again next time.